Audio 1.1.
So, how many friends would you say you had?
Well, it all depends what you mean by friends, doesn't it? I mean, I get on well with a lot of people at work. That's maybe 20 people I'd say were friends.
Do you socialize outside work?
Oh, yes. Maybe not that often, but we meet up after work from time to time. Then there are the friends I play football with. I guess I don't have a lot in common with them apart from football, but I'd say they were friends all the same.
But how many of those friends would you ask to help you out if you were in trouble?
Ah, well, that's different. Friends you can really trust, there aren't so many of those. Maybe 5 or 6?
And what about online? Do you have a lot of Facebook friends?
No, not really. I can't be bothered with it, really. I guess I've got about 15 to 20, but I don't use it much. What about you?
Oh, I have a lot of friends on Facebook. About 150, I think.
150? Do you keep in touch with all of them?
Yes, well, kind of. You know, we send the occasional message to each other.
And have you actually met all of them face to face?
No. Some of them are people I've met on holiday or something, and we wanted to keep in touch. Some of them are old friends from school. But there are quite a lot of friends who are people I've never actually met at all. I just made friends with them on Facebook.
I don't see how you can be friends with someone you've never met.
Of course you can. I probably chat to some of them more than you talk to your friends from football.
And what about in the real world? How many friends do you have in real life?
Well, a lot of the friends I see often in real life are on Facebook too, actually. I've got friends from work, like you, and then there are the people in my evening class. I'm learning German.
And what about really close friends?
I've only got a couple of really close friends that I share everything with. Actually, if I'm honest, recently just one, because I've fallen out with one of my best friends. We're not speaking to each other at the moment.
Did you have a big argument?
Not exactly. It all started when she wouldn't add me on.
Audio 1.2.
Get on well with someone. Meet up with someone. Have a lot in common with someone. Fall out with someone. Help someone out. Trust someone. Get in touch with someone. Keep in touch with someone. Make friends with someone. Have an argument with someone.
Audio 1.3. 1.
I often meet up with groups of friends in the evening.
2.
You don't need to have a lot in common with someone to be friends. It's fine to have different interests.
3.
I get on well with most people I know. There aren't many people I don't like.
4.
A really good friend is someone you can call at midnight and ask them to help you out.
5.
The friends you make at school are often friends for life.
6.
I'm always pleased when someone I haven't heard from in ages gets in touch.
7.
I'm quite easygoing. I rarely fall out with my friends.
8.
I'm not speaking to my sister at the moment. We've had an argument. It seems a bit childish.
9.
I can trust my closest friend with all my secrets.
Audio 1.4.
And now, in our regular look at what's trending on social media and why. Right now, it's something called Black Friday. This term has been used more than 2 million times on Twitter in the last 48 hours. Black Friday is the fourth Friday in November, when the shops have amazing special offers in the run-up to Christmas. Many items are half price, or 2 for the price of 1, and it's now the busiest shopping day of the year in some countries. It started in the USA, but it's spreading round the world now, to the UK, Australia, and more recently to shoppers in Brazil, Mexico, and other Latin American countries. Many shops have been opening very early in the morning, and in some places, people have been so keen to get a bargain that they have started queuing outside the shops the night before. Last year, it is estimated that shoppers in the USA spent over $11 billion on Black Friday. However, while you may get a good discount on your purchases, you should be careful. Firstly, there's the real danger of spending more than you intended or can really afford, buying things on credit and owing a lot of money. And secondly, it may be dangerous, with over 50 injuries in the past 5 years, caused by people fighting over things in the sales.
Audio 1.5.
Let's go over to a busy shopping centre and find out what shoppers there think.
Today is one of the busiest shopping days of the year, and this shopping centre is full of people shopping. However, today something different is happening here. It's Buy Nothing Day, and some people are here to try to persuade the rest of us to do just that, to buy nothing. Lewis Castle is one of them. He's standing here in the main entrance of the shopping centre, holding a big sign saying, "Stop shopping, start living." Lewis, can you explain a little about what Buy Nothing Day means?
Yes, of course. It's pretty simple, really. We're asking everyone to think about their spending habits and buy nothing at all for just one day.
And what difference will that make?
Well, the idea is to make people stop and think about what they're buying. When you really think about it, the idea of buying things as a way of spending your leisure time is crazy. We are all buying more things than we really need. We believe shopping makes us happy, but it doesn't. In fact, it can do the opposite if people end up owing a lot of money.
Yes, I agree. That's a good point. People often buy things they don't really need or want.
Exactly. It's amazing to realise that only 20% of the world's population is consuming over 80% of the Earth's natural resources. Does that seem fair to you? In countries like the UK, we all own far too much.
Does it make any difference what you buy?
Yes, that's part of it too. We're trying to get people to think about the effect their buying choices have on the rest of the world. Something might seem a great bargain, but that could be because it's been made in a country where the workers aren't paid enough. In addition, most of the time we prefer people to buy locally, because transporting goods by air has a harmful effect on the environment.
But will it really make a difference if we stop shopping for just one day?
Actually, most people don't understand how difficult it is to last 24 hours without spending any money. But you'll feel great if you achieve it.
Are a lot of people taking part in Buy Nothing Day this year?
Yes, and more do every year. I think it started in Canada more than 20 years ago, but now there are Buy Nothing Day movements in over 65 countries.
Audio 1.6. 1,
Can you explain a little about what Buy Nothing Day means?
2,
When you really think about it, the idea of buying things as a way of spending your leisure time is crazy.
3,
We believe shopping makes us happy, but it doesn't.
4,
Yes, I agree. That's a good point.
5,
We all own far too much.
6,
Most of the time, we prefer people to buy locally.
7,
Most people don't understand how difficult it is.
Audio 1.7.
Listening for keywords. Keywords carry the most important information. They are generally nouns and verbs, and are usually spoken more loudly and clearly than other words. For example, 3 times a week. I send a lot of emails. I like looking at shopping websites.
Audio 1.8.
This is a fascinating book. We all know that the internet is changing the way we do things, but Carr believes that it is also changing the very way our brains work. With the printed book, he argues, our brains learn to think deeply. In contrast, the internet encourages us to read small bits of information from lots of different places. We are becoming better and better at multitasking, but much worse at concentrating on one thing.
Audio 1.9. 1,
Shopping and banking online is unsafe.
2,
Looking at screens all day is bad for our eyes.
3,
People will forget how to talk to each other.
4,
People don't spend enough time outside.
5,
Online information is not always reliable.
6,
Hyperlinks in online texts are very distracting.
7,
We are now using far more electricity to power all our screens.
8,
Multitasking online makes us work less effectively.
Audio 1.10.
So, this week we're going to be talking about The Shallows, a book by Nicholas Carr, in which he argues that using the internet is actually changing the way our brains work. How is that?
Well, it's actually a very interesting book because rather than just talk about all the ways people say the internet is bad for us, well, you know, the staring at a screen is affecting our eyesight or making our children fat because they don't go outside and play anymore, Carr takes quite a scientific approach. He isn't exactly saying that the internet is bad for us, but he is saying that it is making our brains work differently and that the changes may be permanent.
In what way?
Well, he starts off by talking about when people started writing and reading books. That was a huge change as well, and lots of people felt it was a bad idea. What would happen, they argued, if people didn't have to memorise everything because it was all written down in books? Sounds a bit like the arguments people make today about people looking facts up online, that they don't remember things anymore. But Carr says that, in fact, books taught us to really focus on one thing at a time, whereas now we're constantly looking at lots of different things at the same time. Hyperlinking, where we're encouraged to click on an underlined word or phrase and we go off to a different website, is a particular problem.
But isn't multitasking good for the brain?
Well, according to Carr, no. The studies show that when we try to do two things at once, we do both of them less well. We're also less likely to remember what we've done or read. There are some obvious benefits to the internet, but all the same, it is changing our culture, so that we're less able to concentrate or make deep connections in our brain. And that can't be a good thing, can it?
Audio 1.11.
It seems like every day we find another reason to feel guilty about what we buy. Maybe it's food that we know isn't good for us, or clothes which are made by poorly paid workers, or products which are damaging the environment. Manufacturers know we feel this way, and the latest trend is for so-called guilt-free brands, brands which claim to be better for us, for workers, and for the planet, so that we can buy them and not feel guilty. Sounds great, but is it as good as it sounds? With us today we have Gosha Schlachter and Jem Norris, both members of the same environmental group, but with very different views on the idea of guilt-free brands. So Jem, what do you think about the idea?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anything which makes people think more about what they're buying is a good idea. Take the Fairphone, for example. Until that was produced, most people didn't even realise how bad conditions were for electronics workers in many parts of the world. Now there's a lot more awareness.
There's a lot more awareness, but don't you think it would be better if people understood that there is no need at all to keep buying new phones? There seems to be an idea that you have to have a new phone every 2 years. I'm convinced that if people really understood how much damage this causes to workers and to the planet, they wouldn't do this. I think people should feel guilty. Producing guilt-free brands just gives people an excuse not to think about these issues and just keep buying more and more stuff.
Well, according to the people who make Fairphone, their phones will last longer and be easier to repair. If you ask me, we have to give people the option of buying something which is better for the planet, not just say they shouldn't buy something at all.
Audio 1.12. 1.
So, Jem, what do you think about the idea?
2.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, anything which makes people think.
3.
There's a lot more awareness, but don't you think it would be better if...
4.
I'm convinced that if people really understood.
5.
Well, according to the people who make Fairphone.
6.
If you ask me, we have to give people the option.
Audio 1.13. 1.
How do you decide when you can trust someone? How do you decide when you can trust someone?
2.
Do you have a lot in common with your closest friend? Do you have a lot in common with your closest friend?
3.
When was the last time you made friends with someone new? When was the last time you made friends with someone new?
4.
How do you keep in touch with family or friends who live far away? How do you keep in touch with family or friends who live far away?
5.
When was the last time you fell out with someone? When was the last time you fell out with someone?
6.
Who in your family do you get on with best? Who in your family do you get on with best?
Audio 2.1.
That reminds me of another story I heard about a man who had a lucky escape. He had been at a barbecue restaurant on top of a mountain, and after the meal, he decided not to take the cable car down with his friends, but to walk down instead. While he was looking for the path, he fell into a stream and broke his leg. Unable to move, he tried to phone for help, but his mobile wasn't working because he had dropped it in the stream. Knowing he was missing, teams of people were looking for him, but it was 24 days before they found him. Luckily, he'd brought a bottle of barbecue sauce with him to the barbecue, and he survived by drinking water mixed with the barbecue sauce.
Audio 2.2. 1.
That reminds me of another story I heard about a man who had a lucky escape.
2.
He'd been at a barbecue restaurant.
3.
While he was looking for the path.
4.
Knowing he was missing, teams of people were looking for him.
Audio 2.3.
So, to our next story. A national newspaper was embarrassed recently after publishing a story about a superfruit, the blue melon, which, it turns out, was another internet hoax. Does the internet make hoaxing too easy? Laura, you work for a national newspaper. Do you think there are more hoaxes these days?
Well, there have always been hoaxes, but yes, there are more of them now. It is easy to create a hoax, now that everyone can change photos and videos digitally. And the internet makes it easier to spread the hoax around the world. Everything moves so fast nowadays, and online stories aren't checked before they're published.
One recent hoax I remember was the so-called balloon boy hoax.
Yes, that was a big story. A couple, Richard and Mayumi Heen, let a large gas balloon float off into the air, and then, as soon as it was high in the sky, they said that their 6-year-old son was inside the balloon. The police were informed and helicopters were sent up to track the balloon until they could find a safe way of getting him down. By the time the balloon landed, an hour or so later, about 80 kilometers away, the story was live on television. When the boy was not found inside, the media reported that he had fallen out during the flight, and a huge search started. Meanwhile, the boy was actually safe at home, hiding. The parents suddenly announced that they'd found him at home asleep.
Did the parents really think he was in the balloon?
Well, we can't say for sure, of course, because they never admitted it. But while reporters were interviewing the family on TV, the boy accidentally mentioned that they'd done it to be on TV. He was supposed to keep quiet about that, of course.
That's incredible. Do you think most hoaxes are carried out to become famous?
Yes, and that's not a new thing. Take the example of Piltdown Man. The scientists who claimed to discover that skull became very well known as a result. The publicity you get from a good hoax can also be useful in marketing a product. There have been quite a few advertising campaigns like that. But I don't think becoming famous or getting publicity is the only reason. Quite often, no one knows who started the hoax. Take the blue melon, for example. I imagine someone did that because they thought it was funny to make people believe it.
But not all hoaxes are funny. For example, people in Britain have been calling the emergency number 999 because of a hoax saying that calling this number charges your phone battery.
Really?
Yes, it sounds stupid, but a lot of people believe this hoax and it's caused real problems for the police and fire service. Some people seem to like creating hoaxes to cause as much trouble as possible.
Audio 2.4. 1.
A couple, Richard and Mayumi Heen, let a large gas balloon float off into the air, and then, as soon as it was high in the sky, they claimed that their 6-year-old son was inside the balloon.
2.
The police were informed, and helicopters were sent up to track the balloon until they could find a safe way of getting him down.
3.
By the time the balloon landed, an hour or so later, about 80 kilometers away, the story was live on television.
4.
When the boy was not found inside, the media reported that he had fallen out during the flight, and a huge search started. Meanwhile, the boy was actually safe at home, hiding. The parents suddenly announced that they'd found him at home, asleep.
5.
We can't say for sure because the couple never admitted it, but while reporters were interviewing the family on TV, the boy accidentally mentioned that they'd done it to be on TV. He was supposed to keep quiet about that.
Audio 2.5.
During the early 20th century, scientists were keen to find some evidence that would prove the link between early man and apes. In 1912, that evidence seemed to have been found while Dawson and Woodward were digging on a site in Piltdown in the south of England. As soon as they saw the jawbone and the skull, they decided that this must be the evidence science needed. Woodward claimed that both bones belonged to a human being who had lived about 500,000 years ago, during what is known as the Lower Pleistocene period. Most scientists accepted this opinion until nearly 40 years later, when it was discovered that the Piltdown man was a fake. Meanwhile, Dawson, who most people consider responsible for making the fake, had died. The Piltdown man hoax truly damaged science, because by the time the hoax was discovered, scientists had wasted nearly 40 years believing a lie.
Audio 2.6.
I heard this incredible story from a friend about a woman who lost her wedding ring.
What happened?
Well, she'd lost her wedding ring years ago, in 1995, I think, while she was baking in her kitchen. And although she looked everywhere, even taking up the kitchen floor, she couldn't find it anywhere.
Oh no, that's awful.
Yes, but then she found it again more than 10 years later.
How?
You're not going to believe this, but she was in the garden digging up carrots, and she suddenly noticed that one of the carrots was wearing her ring.
What? You mean the ring was on the carrot? Really?
Yes, it's true. The carrot had grown through the ring.
No way. That's incredible.
It is, isn't it? I'm sure she's keeping it safe now.
Audio 2.7. 1.
What happened?
2.
Oh no, that's awful.
3.
You're joking.
4.
What? You mean the ring was on the carrot?
5.
Really?
6.
No way! That's incredible.
Audio 2.8. 1.
Last Tuesday, my computer broke while I was trying to finish an important piece of work.
2.
So I called a friend who knows about computers and he came over straight away.
3.
He had a look at it, but he couldn't fix it.
4.
He took my keys so he could come back to fix it the next day while I was at work.
5.
The next morning when I tried to leave for work, I discovered that he had locked my front door from the outside and I couldn't get out of the flat.
6.
My parents were traveling abroad and no one else I know had a spare key.
7.
I tried to call my friend, but he had left his phone in my flat. It rang right next to me.
8.
I had to wait for him to arrive, and so I was very late for work.
Audio 2.9. 1.
To think or believe that something will come or happen.
2.
To not be able to remember something.
3.
To ask yourself questions about something.
4.
To know again someone or something that you have seen or heard before.
5.
To help someone remember something.
6.
To suddenly be seen.
7.
To know or understand that something is true or that something has happened.
8.
To cry out loudly in a high voice.
Audio 2.10. 1.
You're not going to believe this, but I've lost my job. You're not going to believe this, but I've lost my job.
2.
Someone told me there's going to be a bad storm tonight. Someone told me there's going to be a bad storm tonight.
3.
I heard that Jack has won the lottery. I heard that Jack has won the lottery.
4.
Apparently, the office is closed this week. Apparently, the office is closed this week.
Audio 3.1.
In the late 1960s, Walter Mischel, a professor at Stanford University in the United States, carried out an experiment which is known as the marshmallow test. He and his researchers took 4-year-old children into a room, all by themselves, and put a marshmallow in front of them. Then, the researcher told the child, "You can eat this now if you want, or if you can be patient and wait until I come back and not eat the marshmallow, you can have 2 marshmallows as a reward." Then, they left the child alone with the marshmallow for 15 minutes. Of course, they filmed what the children did.
Audio 3.2.
15 minutes is a long time if you're a child and you really like marshmallows. So, what happened? How many children do you think ate the marshmallow? Well, nearly 70% ate it. Some ate it straight away. Some managed to wait a while before giving in. Only 30% of the children were able to resist temptation and wait the full 15 minutes. Okay, the researchers found out that most of the children preferred to have something immediately to having to wait for what they really wanted. Not that surprising, really. But some years later, they discovered something much more interesting. When these children became adults, the researchers contacted them again. And what do you think they discovered? All the children who were able to wait were very successful. They had done well at school, had good relationships, and were healthy. They earned a lot more money, too. The children who couldn't resist temptation were generally less successful in all these ways. In the original marshmallow test, the researchers noticed that children who managed not to eat the marshmallow were using some effective techniques. Those children who stared at the marshmallow or picked it up or smelt it always ended up eating it. The successful children found a way to deal with the problem by looking away from the marshmallow or covering their eyes. Watching the successful children made the researchers realize that the important thing was to avoid thinking about the marshmallow at all. Then the children didn't have to make an effort not to eat it. In a later experiment, Michel proved that when he taught the children some simple techniques, such as imagining the marshmallow wasn't real, that it was just a picture of a marshmallow, nearly all the children succeeded in waiting the full 15 minutes. So, everyone can learn to wait if they want to. This is important because this experiment isn't just about waiting for a marshmallow. If you can wait for a marshmallow, then you'll be able to choose to study rather than watch TV, knowing it's better for your future. You'll succeed in saving up money for something you really want, rather than spending it without thinking. And, in this way, you will be able to make better decisions about your future, and eventually get a better and higher paid job.
Audio 3.3.
In the marshmallow test, researchers left 4-year-old children alone in a room with a marshmallow. If the children managed to resist temptation and not eat the marshmallow, the researcher promised them a reward of 2 marshmallows. However, most of the children found it difficult to be patient and gave in before the time was up. They preferred to have something immediately rather than wait for what they really wanted. The researchers found that, as adults, those children who could rise to the challenge were generally much more successful than the others. The best technique was to avoid thinking about the marshmallow at all. The successful children dealt with the problem by looking away or covering their eyes. If they didn't think about the marshmallow, they didn't have to make an effort not to eat it. When Michel taught a different set of children this technique, nearly all the children succeeded in waiting the full time. Learning these techniques can help in adult life because being able to wait helps us to make the right choices.
Audio 3.4.
Achieve. Avoid. Manage. Observe. Prefer. Resist. Succeed.
Audio 3.5.
When he was working in the burger van, Ed had to be reliable and turn up for work on time. He also had to be polite to the customers. However, he didn't have to take much responsibility as his boss dealt with the money. He didn't need to get up early because the van opened at 11 a.m. When he wanted to, he could even take a day off work. Now that he's training to be a chef, it's very different. He has to manage a team, even though he finds it difficult to tell people what to do. It's also a very high-pressure job, so he must work to tight deadlines. However, he doesn't have to work outside anymore, and he can take home really nice food when the restaurant has closed.
Audio 3.6. 1.
Easygoing.
2.
Homemade.
3.
5-star.
4.
Overpriced.
5.
500 page.
6.
Second hand.
7.
English speaking.
8.
Well known.
Audio 3.7.
So today I'm going to show you how to do something amazing using only 7 things. 1. A plastic bottle. 2. Some water. 3. Some bleach. 4. A piece of metal. 5. Some glue. 6. Sandpaper. And 7. A metal roof. What are we going to make?
Wow.
We are going to make a light that doesn't use electricity. The light goes in the roof and is strong enough to give light to a whole room. So let's get started. The first thing you do is cut a hole in the metal sheet.
How do you do that?
Like this. Look, you need to use special metal cutters and you need to measure carefully. And make sure you don't cut the hole too big. Got that?
Yeah, thanks. Okay, what next?
Next, wrap the plastic bottle with some paper. When you've done that, put the bottle in the hole in the metal and glue it in place, like this. While the glue's drying, fill the bottle with water and add 10 milliliters of bleach. Then put the top on the bottle. It should look like this one I made earlier.
Can you say the part about the glue again?
Yes, let me show you again. Put the bottle in the normal way up, like this, and put the glue all around near the top. Make sure you use enough glue, okay?
Yeah, thanks.
After you've done that, it's time to go to the roof. So you need to cut a hole in the roof the same size as the bottle.
Can you show us how to start cutting the hole?
Yes, of course. Look, you do it like this. Then you continue cutting round, okay?
That's great, thanks.
Now, you put the bottle in the hole this way and add more glue to make it secure. And there you have it, a light that needs no electricity, but with sunlight outside it can light up the whole room.
Wow!
That's incredible!
Audio 3.8. 1.
The first thing you do is cut a hole in the metal.
2.
When you've done that, put the bottle in the hole in the metal.
3.
While the glue's drying, fill the bottle with water.
4.
After you've done that, it's time to go to the roof.
Audio 3.9.
Next, rub the bottle with sandpaper. When you've done that, put the bottle in the hole in the metal and glue the bottle in place.
Audio 3.10. 1.
If I come into work early, I can leave early. If I come into work early, I can leave early.
2.
In my last job, I had to wear a uniform. In my last job, I had to wear a uniform.
3.
You can't use the phone for private calls. You can't use the phone for private calls.
4.
You don't need to wear a tie. You don't need to wear a tie.
5.
You must remember to lock up before you go. You must remember to lock up before you go.
Audio 3.11. 1.
Good.
2.
English.
3.
Well.
4.
Hard.
5.
Easy.
6.
Second.
Audio 3.12.
The first thing you do is to put some flour in a bowl with a little salt. Then you crack an egg into the bowl.
I'm not very good at that. How do you crack the egg without getting bits of shell in the bowl?
No problem. Let me show you. Look, you crack it on the edge of the bowl like this. Then you mix it in and add the milk. Make sure you mix it very thoroughly so there aren't any lumps.
What next?
Then you have to wait for about 30 minutes. While you're doing that, you can get ready whatever you want to put on the pancakes. Then you heat some oil or butter and put some mixture in the pan. When the first side is cooked, you flip it over. Look, you do it like this.
Wow, that's clever!
Audio 4.1.
So, yesterday we took the train from La Paz, Bolivia, into Peru, stopping at Puno, And today we are going to visit the floating islands on Lake Titicaca. I can't wait. Ever since I first heard about these islands in a geography class many years ago, I've wanted to see them. Actually, I don't really enjoy boat trips, but I'm sure the water on the lake will be quite calm, as it's a clear sunny day. It's quite cold though, so I'm going to take an extra sweater to keep warm. I'm really interested in finding out more about how people live there. I believe we'll be able to ask them questions through a guide. I'd love to know what people eat. A lot of fish, I suppose. I'd also like to know what they think the future holds for them and their families. Do they think their children will stay on the islands? What effect is technology going to have on their lives? I know they already have solar power and even black and white TVs. Just thought, it would be great to have some photos for the blog, so I'll take my camera too. Just hope I don't drop it in the water.
Audio 4.2. 1.
It was the end of September and a beautiful sunny day. Autumn is the most beautiful season here, and the leaves on the trees were beginning to turn golden in places. As we climbed through the forest, we enjoyed the fresh air and the smell of the soil. Moving slowly up the steep winding path, we came to the edge of the forest, and suddenly we could see a gorgeous lake at the edge of a mountain range in the distance. The peaks and cliffs of the mountains were partly covered in snow, even at this time of the year. The scenery was just amazing.
2.
We had been walking all day, and it was slowly getting dark. We had seen gorgeous mountains with lovely greenery, refreshing waterfalls, and clear pools amongst the rocks. We had enjoyed playing in the pools in the hot sunshine, but at the end of the day, we had descended back into the valley. Walking down towards where we were staying for the night, the sunset was amazing, beautiful and red, with the silhouettes of the palm trees in the distance. I don't think I've ever seen such a beautiful and unusual landscape.
Audio 4.3.
Good afternoon and welcome to Science Matters. Walking through the park yesterday, it was full of people enjoying the sunshine. Recent research, however, suggests that people are spending less time outdoors. One study looked at trends in visits to national parks in the United States, Japan and Spain, and found that the number of visits had gone down by 18% since the late 1980s. A recent British study found that even during the summer, people spend just 1 to 2 hours outside per day. So, why is this happening, and what should we do about it? Our science reporter, Julie Mayers, has been researching into the benefits of being outdoors. So, Julie, why do we stay indoors so much?
Hello. Well, it may be that rather than enjoying the beauty of nature, we prefer to sit in front of a screen. Statistics show that people in the U.S. now spend around 8.5 hours a day looking at a screen, and this trend will definitely spread around the world as smartphones become more common. Another explanation is that more people live in cities. In 1950, 79% of the UK population lived in cities, but that percentage is likely to rise to around 92% by 2030. And even traditionally less urbanized countries may end up in a similar situation. For example, Botswana in 1950 had less than 3% of its population living in cities. Now it has about 61%, and this percentage will probably rise further over the next few years.
But does it actually matter if we don't get outside much?
Well, yes, obviously there are the physical benefits. We know that people who live near green spaces are more likely to be physically active. In fact, nearly 45% of Californian teens who live near a park take part in physical activities for at least 1 hour a day, at least 5 days a week, whereas only 1/3 of teens who don't have access to a nearby park have the same level of physical activity. But there's more than that. According to researchers at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, people's brains actually change when they spend time in natural environments, reducing stress and improving mood. The Japanese have known this for some time. Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is simply visiting a forest or other natural area and walking slowly, taking in everything you see, hear, smell, and even taste. Scientific research shows that walking in the forest for 30 minutes will reduce depression and lower your blood pressure. They even think it might prevent you from becoming ill.
Really? That seems very hard to believe. How's that?
It seems that the trees give off chemicals which help to keep you healthy. One study showed a 50% increase in the white blood cells needed to fight illness after a 2-hour walk. Research taking place at the moment will tell us more about how this works. The Japanese government has already built 48 official forest bathing trails and say they will definitely build another 52 within the next 10 years.
Really? That's a lot. Do you think it could become as popular in other countries?
Yes, it probably will. In fact, South Korea has already started building its own forest bathing centers, and other countries, like Finland, may soon follow.
Audio 4.4. 1.
In the U.S., people now spend 8.5 hours a day looking at a screen, and this trend will definitely spread around the world as smartphones become more common.
2.
The percentage of British people living in cities is likely to rise to 92% by 2030.
3.
Countries such as Botswana, where in 1950 only 3% of people lived in a city, may end up in a similar situation.
4.
Nowadays, 61% of Botswana's population lives in cities, and this percentage will probably rise further.
5.
Walking in a forest for 30 minutes improves mood and might even stop you getting ill.
6.
After a 2-hour walk, some people showed a 50% increase in the white blood cells needed to help fight disease.
7.
The Japanese government will build 52 more forest bathing trails within the next 10 years, and other countries may follow.
Audio 4.5. 1.
This trend will definitely spread around the world. This trend will definitely spread around the world.
2.
The number is likely to rise. The number is likely to rise.
3.
This percentage probably won't rise much further. This percentage probably won't rise much further.
4.
People who live near green spaces are more likely to be active. People who live near green spaces are more likely to be active.
Audio 4.6. 1.
Neat and tidy.
2.
In a bit of a mess.
Audio 4.7.
Understanding consonant-vowel linking. When one word finishes in a consonant and the next word begins with a vowel, or the other way round, the consonant often becomes attached to the vowel. This means that it is difficult to hear the correct words. The person you are listening to actually said, Alaska, but you hear Alaska. While you are listening, you have to check that what you hear makes sense in the situation.
Audio 4.8. 1.
What a mess!
2.
In a while.
3.
Take up too much space.
4.
Peace and quiet.
5.
A nice drink.
6.
A big apartment.
4.9. 1.
What a mess this room is. We need to tidy it up.
2.
I hope to finish the decorating in a while.
3.
I wanted to put the bookshelf here, but it takes up too much space.
4.
The best thing about this house is the peace and quiet.
5.
Would you like a nice drink?
6.
She lives in a big apartment in Berlin.
Audio 4.10.
Can you tell me about your problem?
Well, I'm a hoarder. I just can't throw things away. So my house is full of stuff. I'm starting to run out of space.
What kind of stuff do you keep?
Everything. Newspapers, old yoghurt pots, clothes, toys.
Old yoghurt pots? Why do you keep those?
Well, because they might come in useful one day. Well, you know, I might decide to grow plants in them.
But don't they take up a lot of space? Where do you keep them?
In my shower cubicle.
Oh, you're joking.
No, seriously. I've got a load of newspapers too, going back to 1995. They're in a shed in the garden.
So your house must be pretty full then.
There's no room for anything. Our front garden is full of old machines like dishwashers and fridges.
Oh, what a nightmare. And how does your wife feel about this?
Well, to be honest, she's not very happy. But what can I do about it?
Audio 4.11.
So, how's it going? Enjoying your new flat?
Yes, I love it.
You've got a fantastic view from the windows.
Yes, we're on the top floor. I spent the whole weekend going up and down the stairs with boxes.
Yes, I can see.
Look, make yourself at home. Have a seat.
Where?
Yes, I see what you mean. Well, why don't you sit on a box?
No, don't worry. I can make room on this sofa if I just move this suitcase. How did you manage to move all your stuff over a weekend?
Oh, I didn't do it all at the weekend. I took some time off from work last week.
It'll look great once you've got everything unpacked. You've got a lot of room here.
Yeah, it's so much bigger than my old place. Mind you, I've really got too much stuff. This old sofa and chairs take up so much space, and there's furniture in the flat already.
Maybe you should get rid of your old furniture.
Yes, perhaps. I think I really need to get everything unpacked first, and then I can see what I need and don't need. Are you going to give me a hand?
Sure.
Audio 4.12.
Hello, Belle's Bistro.
Oh, hello. I had lunch at your restaurant today, and I think I may have left my mobile phone there on one of the tables. I wonder if you could check for me.
Certainly. Could I just take some details first?
Yes, of course.
Could you tell me the make of the phone?
Yes, it was a...
Audio 4.13.
Hello, how can I help you?
Hello, I understand that the hotel has a gym.
Yes, that's right. It's in the basement.
Thank you. Could you tell me the opening hours, please?
It's open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Thank you, that's great.
Can I help you with anything else?
Yes, just one last question. Do I need to take a towel with me, or are they provided?
Audio 4.14.
Hello, Grand Hotel. How can I help you?
Hello, I think I may have left my briefcase at reception this morning. I wonder if you could check if it's being handed in.
Certainly. Could I just take some details? What color was it?
It's black, and it has my initials on it. M.H.G. Miguel Hernandez Garcia.
Thank you. One moment. Yes, we have it.
That's great. I wonder if I could come and pick it up this evening.
Yes, any time. Can I help you with anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you for your help, though. I really appreciate it.
Audio 5.1.
The first film we're looking at today is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, starring Ben Stiller and Kristen Wiig, a remake of a classic comedy from 1947, based on James Thurber's book, which was written even earlier, in 1939. The film manages to bring the story up to date quite well. Walter Mitty is a quiet man who secretly dreams of being an action hero, rescuing people from burning buildings or travelling into space. Soon, however, his adventures start to become real as he decides to set out on a journey to find a missing photographic negative. The special effects are pretty impressive, especially in the scene set in Iceland and the Himalayas. But despite a cast with several excellent comic actors, the film just isn't very funny. Kristen Wiig, who plays the woman Mitty is secretly in love with, is just wasted, with no real humour in what she has to say. Stiller's performance is better, but overall, the film's a bit disappointing. The other film we're looking at today is Rio 2096, a story of love and fury. I enjoy going to see animated films with my kids, but to be honest, I'm not usually a big fan of animated films for adults. So I didn't expect to enjoy this one. After about 10 minutes, though, I realised I was wrong. It's fantastic. The film is set in 4 different periods of Brazil's history. It starts in the future in 2096, where a man and a woman, voiced by Brazilian stars Selton Mello and Camila Pitanga, stand at the top of a skyscraper in the middle of the night. To live without knowing the past is like walking in the dark, says the man. Suddenly the film goes back in time, almost 600 years, to 1566, when the Portuguese arrived in Brazil. The man explains that in 1566 he was a Tupinamba Indian attempting to save his tribe, who were all killed when Rio de Janeiro was first built. Having failed to save any of them, including his great love, Janaína, he magically turns into a bird. He will return as a man in the future when he hopes to be with Janaína once more. We then see the couple living through slavery in 1825 and the military dictatorship in 1970 before returning to the future in 2096. It's a disturbing future where poor people can't afford to buy water, but he and Janaína continue to fight against evil as they've done throughout the last 600 years. The plot is a little complicated if you aren't familiar with Brazilian history, but the story is told with such passion that you can't help enjoying it. It really deserved to win the top prize at the 2013 Annecy International Animated Film Festival.
Audio 5.2.
A beautiful film about the dreams of village school children in rural Indonesia. Stepping on the flying grass is both visually stunning and truly moving. When their teacher asks them to write an essay about their dearest dreams and wishes, a group of village school children begin to think seriously about what they plan to do with their lives. Pooji enjoys being useful and just wants to help others. May fantasizes about becoming an actress. She spends hours practicing in front of the mirror. But does she really love acting? Or is it actually her mother's dream? Agus's family can't afford to eat any special food at home, but he really wants to eat at an authentic Padang restaurant in the city. When an opportunity arises to make some money, he decides to make his dream come true. As the film progresses, he gradually realizes that for dreams to come true, you need to work at them.
Audio 5.3.
Amusing. Surprising. Ordinary. Violent. Enjoyable. Intelligent. Original. Predictable. Disappointing. Entertaining. Unexciting.
Audio 5.4.
I've lived in New York for about 3 years now. It's an exciting place to live, but there are quite a few annoying things about it too. For a start, it's incredibly expensive. When I moved into my flat 3 years ago, the rent was already quite high, but it has gone up 3 times since then. It can also be quite a violent place. I haven't been mugged yet, but my best friend has. Luckily, she wasn't actually hurt. They just took her bag. And the traffic? It's dreadful. It took me more than an hour to get to work today, and nearly as long to get home. However, I've never lived anywhere where there is so much to do. Over the past month, I've been to the theater 3 times, as well as to a number of great art exhibitions. I've also just started salsa classes. You can find everything from everywhere here. So, although living in New York has some bad points, on balance, I don't think I want to live anywhere else in the world.
Audio 5.5.
1. I'm absolutely exhausted.
2.
She was absolutely amazed.
3.
That smells absolutely delicious.
4.
It's absolutely astonishing.
5.
It's absolutely enormous.
6.
It's absolutely freezing in here.
Audio 5.6. 1.
I can't walk any further. I'm absolutely exhausted. I'll have to sit down.
2.
She was absolutely amazed when she saw her sister standing at the front door. They hadn't seen each other for 10 years.
3.
That smells absolutely delicious. I love the smell of garlic. What are you cooking?
4.
It's absolutely astonishing. This is the first time you haven't been late this year.
5.
I can't carry that. It's absolutely enormous. I'll need help to get it up the stairs.
6.
Put the heater on. It's absolutely freezing in here.
Audio 5.7. Conversation 1.
Did you see that stuff on Facebook about how much music people listen to every day?
Yes, but I'm not sure I believe it though. The statistics look much higher than I'd expect. I mean, who listens to music when they are going to sleep?
Me, and 32% of the people they asked.
Conversation 2.
What do you fancy watching on TV tonight?
I thought we could watch the programme on climate change.
Oh no, that sounds really boring. I really don't want to watch another programme about the weather.
Well, I thought it looked quite interesting. But if you're really sure you don't want to watch it, there's a sci-fi movie on the other channel.
That sounds much more interesting.
Conversation 3.
Have you tried this new film site? Is it any good?
Yes, it's great. I expected it to be really expensive, but it isn't. But you have to be careful.
Why?
I stayed up till 4 a.m. this morning watching a whole series. I wouldn't recommend that if you have to go to work the next day. I'm exhausted.
Audio 5.8. 1.
I feel tired.
2.
The film was good.
3.
That meal was tasty.
4.
It's cold today.
5.
That piece of cake is large.
6.
It looks bad.
Audio 5.9. 1.
It was nothing like as good as I expected it to be.
2.
It's really not worth seeing.
3.
I wouldn't recommend it.
4.
I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like it.
5.
It was much less interesting than I expected.
Audio 6.1.
Your car is now in charge. Driverless cars are already here. Driving along the motorway in busy traffic, the driver presses a button on the steering wheel. The car is now driving itself. This may sound like science fiction, but driverless cars are already on the roads in California. Many cars can already park themselves by the side of the road, brake automatically when the car needs to slow down, and warn the driver if they are slipping out of the correct lane. So going driverless is just the next step. Driverless cars come with fast broadband, allowing them to overtake other cars safely and even communicate with traffic lights as they approach junctions. Being stuck in traffic jams could become a thing of the past, as driverless cars will be able to drive at speed much closer to each other. More than 50 million people die or are injured in road accidents every year, and 90% of these accidents are caused by human error. Google's driverless car sticks to the speed limit and doesn't get tired. So wouldn't it be much safer if all cars were driverless?
Audio 6.2.
Intelligent machines that can serve us in supermarkets, give us directions, and even drive for us are becoming part of all our lives. Some of the things machines can do now would have seemed impossible just a few years ago. And there's more to come. Amazon promises robot drones which will deliver our packages, and Rolls-Royce says robo-ships, which won't need any crew, will soon be sailing our seas. But what will this mean for our workers? Some think that only people whose skills are better than the machine's abilities will have work. Those who don't have high-level skills risk being unemployable or will have to work for very low wages.
Audio 6.3.
Climate change. Crop damage. Water shortages.
Global warming. Strong winds. Tropical storms.
Audio 6.4.
Welcome to the world today. Today we're talking about extreme weather. Recently, there seem to have been a lot of extreme weather events. While there have always been strong winds and tropical storms, many scientists now agree that climate change has been causing higher temperatures and more storms, floods, and droughts. It's a serious situation, and although governments have been trying to reduce pollution and stop the global temperature rising, we haven't been very successful so far. Could there be a different solution? With us in the studio today, we have Neil Clough, our science correspondent who has been researching ways in which scientists around the world have been trying to artificially control or change the weather. Neil, can anything be done to prevent these extreme weather events?
Well, if these changes in weather patterns have been happening as a result of global warming, then we should try to prevent further warming by reducing pollution, protecting trees, and so on. However, scientists have been exploring another method. It seems possible that we might be able to actually do more to control the weather directly.
Audio 6.5.
Tell us more about controlling the weather.
Well, scientists have been working on techniques to create or prevent rain for quite some time now. The best-known method is called cloud seeding. This involves putting chemicals into the air to encourage any water in the air to form clouds and hopefully rain.
So, if we can make it rain when we want it to, why do we still have problems with droughts?
Well, unfortunately, it isn't quite as simple as that. If there is a drought, there probably won't be any clouds in the sky at all. The only thing you could do is to do cloud seeding when there are clouds, and then save the water for when there is a drought.
That could be helpful, I guess. And can it help with storms and hurricanes as well?
Yes, hurricanes form in warm, tropical waters. That's why global warming is having an impact. As the seas get warmer, there are likely to be more hurricanes. But it seems possible that we could use cloud seeding to cool the seas down.
That sounds incredible. But is it actually a good idea to try and change the weather? I mean, what about putting chemicals into the atmosphere? That can't be a good idea, can it?
Well, this is one of the things we need to find out. There is some concern that creating rain in one area of the world might take it away from somewhere else. But in terms of the chemicals, it seems that one group of scientists have found a solution. Professor Jean-Pierre Wolff and Dr. Jerome Kasparian at the University of Geneva have been experimenting with using lasers to control the weather.
Lasers?
Their experiments have shown that pulses of light from a laser can be used to make rain clouds without using any chemicals. They also think that lasers can be used to direct storms away from certain buildings, such as airports.
Wow, that is quite amazing. I still feel that perhaps we shouldn't be playing with the weather like this.
Yes, a lot of people would agree with you. But you've got to remember that we have been changing the weather for a long time anyway, through global warming. This type of technology is nothing compared with that, and it could be helpful rather than harmful.
Audio 6.6.
In recent years, there has been a noticeable increase in extreme weather events. Many scientists now agree that climate change has caused this increase. The science correspondent in the program has just finished researching ways in which scientists around the world have been trying to artificially control or change weather patterns. These scientists have been exploring various techniques, including cloud seeding, over the past few years. However, many people are worried about putting chemicals into the atmosphere. Recently, one team of scientists in Geneva has discovered a way to use lasers to control the weather.
Audio 6.7.
It's important to get away from your everyday life at least once a year, and if you live here in the UK, you need to find somewhere with guaranteed sunshine. What I mean is, somewhere where the weather is a bit more reliable. It's great to do something you'd never do at home. In fact, I'm sure the challenge keeps you healthy. Anyway, we've just booked 2 weeks exploring the lakes and volcanoes of Nicaragua. I can't wait.
Audio 6.8. 1.
What I mean is, somewhere where the weather is a bit more reliable.
2.
In fact, I'm sure the challenge keeps you healthy.
3.
Anyway, we've just booked 2 weeks exploring the lakes and volcanoes of Nicaragua. I can't wait.
Audio 6.9.
Linkers in conversation. We use linkers to show how ideas are connected and to help listeners to follow the conversation. For example, to get someone's attention, we may say, actually, in fact. To paraphrase, we may say, in other words. To put it another way, what I mean is. To return to a previous topic, we may say, as I was saying, anyway, anyhow.
Audio 6.10.
You know, as soon as I get behind the steering wheel, I feel great. I'm in control. I decide where I'm going and how fast. What I mean is, I'm in charge. I don't have to wait at the bus stop or get nervous about catching the train or it not turning up. I find traveling by bus and train much more stressful.
I must have about 20 pairs in all colors. I wear them so I can feel taller, and that makes me feel much more confident. My favorite ones are silver and very high. I only wear them to special events because although they look great, they're rather uncomfortable. In fact, I usually wear flat ones to get to the event and then slip them on before I go in.
I suppose it's true. My whole life is on it. I just couldn't function without it. I mean, I've put everything on it. My friends' numbers, my Facebook, photos, music, games, and loads of apps. I'd be completely lost without it. I never write anything down. I just put it on here. Let me show you. Actually, where is it? I had it a moment ago. Wait, it must be in here. Ooh.
I think it all began when I was a kid, and my grandma used to bring me a bar when she came round to babysit. Now I love it. In cakes, biscuits, or just a big box full. I have to have some every day. I feel a bit down if I don't. But as I was saying, I think the real reason I love it so much is because it reminds me of all the happy times I had with my lovely grandma.
Audio 6.11.
Hi, Pedro. It's Sarah.
Oh, hi. I was just thinking about you, Sarah. We're meeting for lunch with Estelle tomorrow, aren't we?
Actually, that's why I'm phoning. There's been a change of plan. I'm afraid I've got something else on tomorrow lunchtime. I've got a work meeting from 12 till 2 that I can't change. So how about getting together after work instead? Say 6 o'clock? We could go for an early dinner.
Let me just have a look at my diary. I'm really sorry, but I can't make it then. I'm meeting someone in town at 6:30. Are you free on Thursday after work?
Well, I'm supposed to be playing tennis with my sister, but we can probably change it to another day. I'll speak to her, then I'll get back to you, okay? And will you see if Thursday is okay with Estelle?
No problem. I'll speak to you later then.
Bye.
Audio 6.12. 1.
There's been a change of plan.
2.
I've got something else on tomorrow lunchtime.
3.
How about getting together after work instead?
4.
I'm really sorry, but I can't make it then.
5.
I'm supposed to be playing tennis with my sister.
6.
I'll speak to her, then I'll get back to you.
Audio 6.13. 1.
Climate change.
2.
Crop damage.
3.
Global warming.
4.
Heat waves.
5.
Landslides.
6.
Strong winds.
7.
Tropical storms.
8.
Water shortages.
Audio 6.14. 1.
Music.
2.
Cloud.
3.
Danger.
4.
Luck.
5.
Stress.
6.
Success.
7.
Fashion.
8.
Comfort.
Audio 6.15.
Hi, it's Joanne here.
Hi, Joanne.
You know we were supposed to be going to the cinema on Saturday. I'm really sorry, but there's been a change of plan. Can we go on Sunday instead?
Oh dear. Sorry, but I'm not available then. How about next Saturday?
I'm meant to be meeting my brother and his wife for dinner next Saturday, but I'll talk to them and get back to you.
Okay, that's fine.
Audio 7.1. 1.
For many years, people have moved to Europe in search of a brighter future and a higher standard of living. In recent years, however, the pattern seems to be changing, with thousands of young people moving from Europe to Africa, Asia, and South America. We spoke to 3 people who have made the move to find out why they moved and how it has worked out for them. Dermot, you're from Ireland, aren't you? But you live and work in the Philippines.
Yes, that's right. I came to the Philippines in 2005 for a job in property, selling office buildings. At that time, Ireland was doing really well economically, and a lot of people couldn't understand why I was going abroad. It was a fantastic opportunity for me, though, as I was quickly promoted to manager when I'd just been a salesperson back in Ireland. The job also came with rent-free accommodation in a beautiful apartment, and everyone was so friendly. And after 2 years, I became a director, so my career prospects have definitely been improved by coming to Manila. I didn't work such long hours in Ireland, it's true, but I didn't get the benefits I have now, like private medical care and great training. And the weather is a lot better.
2.
That certainly sounds like a very positive move. And Maria, what about you?
Well, I'm a qualified architect with a master's degree. But when I was made redundant in Athens, I just couldn't find another job. I used to spend all day ringing people up and getting nowhere. I'd been unemployed for over a year when I decided to try Australia. I still haven't been able to find work as an architect in Melbourne, but I have been able to retrain as a landscape designer, designing gardens instead of houses. It's great being outside so much because the weather's nearly always good. I also have a lot of job satisfaction now. Because I have relatives here, it wasn't too difficult to get a visa. In fact, Melbourne is the biggest Greek city in the world outside of Greece.
Do you think you'll stay as long as Dermot has?
Probably. I really like it here.
3.
And what about you, Joachim? You're currently working in Luanda, Angola, aren't you? Do you think you'll stay there?
Well, the job is just temporary, for 4 months. But now I'm here, I think I'll stay a lot longer. The working conditions are much better at the moment than in Lisbon, where I'm from. I get sick pay and holiday pay and plenty of time off. My salary is a lot higher as well, although Luanda is a very expensive city these days. In fact, it's now supposed to be the most expensive city in the world. There's plenty of work, though, both skilled and unskilled. Angola has one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
Audio 7.2. 1.
Which is more important, a good salary or job satisfaction?
2.
At work, is it better to obey the rules or to take risks?
3.
Have you ever had a temporary job? What was it? Did you want it to become permanent?
4.
Have you ever had a job where you had to supervise other employees? Did you like the responsibility?
5.
Would you like a job where you had to come up with new ideas or one where you simply followed the rules?
6.
Do you find it easy to think creatively and come up with new ideas? How do you do it?
Audio 7.3.
Leanne.
I'm not sure I understand. Could you explain what you mean?
Well, yes, of course. So you've applied for this job and you want to get this job, but why should we give it to you?
Oh, I see. Okay. You should give me the job because I have a lot of experience that will help your company.
Could you give some examples of that?
Well, to give you a good example, I spent 3 years working in a similar situation in
Parissa.
I'm not sure I understand. Do you mean what job will I have?
Yes. In other words, what are your goals for the next few years? What do you want to do?
Ah, I see. Well, I'm very ambitious. First, I'd like to get some good work experience with a company like yours, and then, in a couple of years, I plan to start a part-time master's course in...
Sophie.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that, please?
Yes, of course. I asked when was the last time you had a difference of opinion with someone at work? A time you disagreed with someone?
Ah, okay. Let me see. A time I had a different opinion. Well, actually, last month I was working in a project team and I didn't agree with the team leader about the time we needed to complete the project.
And how did you deal with that? What did you do?
Well,
Marina.
Oh, that's a difficult question. Let me think. Well, I suppose I would be something like, an egg. Yes, an egg.
Why an egg?
Well, because an egg is very... Now, what's the word again? Useful. Yes, an egg is very useful. It goes in so many dishes, and it is one of those foods that is eaten all over the world. So, useful, international, and very healthy, of course.
Ken.
I'm sorry, could you explain what you mean?
Yes, of course. What I mean is, what makes you want to work, to do a good job? And the opposite of that, what stops you being interested or working well?
Ah, okay. Now I get it. Well, goals are very important to me. I work really well when I have clear goals. I know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and when I need to do it by.
Could you give some examples of that?
Yeah, of course. One example was when
Audio 7.4. 1.
Could you explain what you mean?
2.
Well, to give you a good example, I spent 3 years working in a similar situation.
3.
I'm not sure I understand. Do you mean what job will I have?
4.
Yes. In other words, what are your goals for the next few years?
5.
Could you repeat that, please?
6.
Let me think.
7.
What I mean is, what makes you want to work?
8.
Could you give me some examples of that?
Audio 7.5. 1.
Wanting to become rich or successful.
2.
Not willing to let anything stop you from doing what you want to do.
3.
Having special skills or knowledge.
4.
A lot of people have heard their name or know about them.
5.
Putting in a lot of effort.
6.
Very good at doing something.
Audio 7.6.
Get. Completely. Take. Positions. Progress. Risks. Promoted. Different. Think. Make. Creatively. Hire.
Audio 8.1.
According to a recent World Happiness Report, Denmark is the happiest country in the world. But just why is that? And what, if anything, can other countries learn from it? The first point to make is that clearly Denmark and most of the other countries in the top 10 don't have much poverty. Money may not buy happiness, but a strong economy certainly helps. However, if you look a bit further down the list, you'll see that money isn't everything. Mexico, for example, comes higher up the list than the United States. Money doesn't make you happy unless everyone has enough. Big differences between rich and poor tend to make people unhappier. Also, just because a country is rich, it doesn't mean that it looks after its people well. Many people in the United States, for example, don't have free health care. But if a country has quite high taxes, like Denmark, it can provide free health care to everyone. You may not believe that you'll be happier if you pay higher taxes, but as a country, you will. And Danish people have a healthy lifestyle too. They tend to eat a balanced diet and get plenty of physical exercise. In fact, 50% of trips to work and school in Copenhagen are made by bicycle rather than car or bus. As well as the positive impact on reducing pollution, doctors estimate that if you can cycle for 30 minutes a day, it may add 1 to 2 years to your life. Denmark is also a very equal society. There aren't big differences between rich and poor, and men and women are treated equally too. Both parents are allowed paid time off work after the birth of a baby, and they can decide how to share the time. It's a very family-friendly country with free or very cheap childcare provided by the government. The Danes only work 37 hours a week on average. If people work a 37-hour week, they have quite a lot of leisure time, and the Danes spend much of this time socializing and enjoying cultural activities. The winter may be cold and dark, but there is a special term, hygge, to describe a kind of cozy meeting with friends and family. People light candles, keep warm, and eat delicious food together. And finally, more than 40% of Danes use their extra leisure time to do voluntary work, helping their neighbours. I'm beginning to see just why it's such a great place to live.
Audio 8.2 1.
If people spend more than an hour travelling to work, they are generally less content.
2.
Unless you have some close friendships, you will find it hard to be happy.
3.
If you do regular exercise outdoors, you'll be able to work more efficiently.
4.
People tend to be happier if they are in a long-term relationship.
5.
If people are active in work and free time, they'll probably be healthier.
Audio 8.3 1.
If I were braver, I might be a firefighter.
2.
We could volunteer more if we had more time.
3.
What would you do if you saw someone being robbed?
4.
If we won the lottery, we could give some money to charity.
5.
I wouldn't do a job if it were risky or dangerous.
6.
He'd be so embarrassed if he knew people were talking about his heroism.
Audio 8.4
Changing sounds when we link words. Speaking at natural speed, we often change the last sound of a word to make it easier to say the words together. For example, when one word ends in sounds t or d, and the next word starts with sounds such as b, p, k, g, and m. Listening to natural speech, these changes can make groups of words more difficult to understand. For example, we write would move, but we say would move. We write that place, but we say that place.
Audio 8.5 1.
Red pram.
2.
Could be.
3.
White coffee.
4.
Mild coffee.
5.
Should go.
6.
Coal metal.
7.
Hot pepper.
8.
Hot milk.
Audio 8.6
If you could pick anywhere in the world to live, where would you go? Iceland might not be the most obvious choice, but I don't regret moving here. I came to study earth science at the University of Iceland. Iceland has volcanoes, glaciers, and earthquakes.
What can't you see here? I came to study the natural world, but I stayed in Iceland because I love the way of life.
Audio 8.7.
There was a bit of culture shock at first. I was surprised at just how much time people spend outdoors. People are close to nature in a way that many other countries have forgotten, and even when the temperatures are freezing, people love getting out into the fresh air. Look outside any cafe, and you're likely to see lots of babies sleeping outside in prams. Icelanders believe that the cold, fresh air could be good for their health and helps them sleep better. And no one worries about their safety. Crime rates are very low indeed. I also found it hard to get used to the way that time seems to have no meaning here. If friends arrange to meet between 7:30 and 8, you'd better not be surprised if they don't turn up until about 9:30. At first, this used to drive me mad. I thought people were being really rude. Gradually, though, I realised that it wasn't rudeness. People just don't worry about punctuality the way we do at home. The education system is much more relaxed too. There isn't the same emphasis on tests and exams. In primary school, children spend a lot of time playing outside and learning practical skills such as knitting. But they are still very highly educated in the end, and apparently 1 in 10 Icelanders is a published author. The food took a bit of getting used to as well. There are some dishes I had to be persuaded to try, like sheep's head or shark. But my husband, Gustav, is such a good cook that he can make most things taste nice.
Audio 8.8.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stuart French, and I'm here to talk to you about something we all have to do about 70 times every day. Make a decision. Obviously, some are more straightforward than others. Most people don't have too much trouble deciding what to have for breakfast, for example, but some decisions can be a lot trickier. So, in today's talk, I'm going to look at how understanding the decision-making process can help us to make better decisions when we really need to. First, I want to tell you about some factors that affect our decision-making. Then, I'll talk about methods people use to make decisions. And finally, I'll give you some tips about decision-making.
Audio 8.9.
So, what factors affect our decision-making? The first thing I'd like to mention is the number of decisions we make. Recent research seems to show that making conscious decisions actually makes the brain feel tired. As we make more and more decisions, we become less effective. So, if you have an important decision to make, it's probably best to do it early in the day before you've had to make too many other, less important decisions. Another major factor that affects our decision-making is how much information we have to consider. It's obviously a good idea to have some information before we make a decision. However, studies show that if we have too much information to deal with, we're more likely to make the wrong decision. It seems that it's just too much for our brains. The third and last factor I want to mention today is stress. Researchers have found that people making decisions under stress are more likely to think about the possible positive results of a decision and less likely to think about the negatives. So, if you're under stress at work and trying to decide whether to leave, you're more likely to think about how great it will feel to leave and less about how you'll actually get a new job.
Audio 8.10.
Now, let's move on to look at how to make a decision. One common method is to gather the necessary information, but not too much, remember. List the possible solutions and set a time limit. This helps you to be more decisive. Another useful thing to do is to make 2 lists on a piece of paper, the advantages and the disadvantages, and then see if you have more advantages than disadvantages and how important each one is. In fact, Charles Darwin, the great evolutionary scientist, is said to have used this method to decide whether to ask his girlfriend to marry him. Not a great romantic, though. Many people believe that it's sometimes a good idea to be guided by our heart, our gut feeling. So remember that overthinking things can sometimes make your decision-making ability worse. So, we've looked at some of the things that affect our ability to make decisions and some ways to make decisions. Now I'd like to finish with a tip. Decision-making can be a difficult and complicated process. Don't expect everyone to agree with your decisions, and be prepared to accept that sometimes you will make the wrong choices. Are there any questions?
Audio 8.11. 1.
If you spend it on the right things, money can buy happiness.
2.
Most people will be happier if you spend time with them rather than spend money on them.
3.
If you're going on holiday, you will be happier if you pay for it straight away.
4.
People should buy experiences rather than things, especially if they are older.
5.
People don't enjoy things as much unless they have to work hard for them.
Audio 8.12. 1.
If I were president of my country.
2.
I would move to another country if...
3.
If I spoke fluent English.
4.
I could earn more money if...
5.
If I had more money.
6.
I'd be happier if...
Audio 9.1. 1.
He's got dark hair and a bit of stubble on his chin. He looks quite middle-aged and he's got a bit of a double chin. He's quite well built, possibly a bit overweight. Oh, and he's going bald, but he's got kind eyes.
2.
I'd say he's in good shape. He's probably in his late 20s. He's got quite a square jaw and a big nose, but it looks good. He's got a bit of a beard and a mustache. His hair is shoulder length and dark brown.
3.
I think she's quite slim. She's got short blonde hair with a bit of a fringe. Her hair might be dyed, actually. I'd say she was in her late 30s or early 40s.
Audio 9.2. 1.
The descriptions were more positive.
2.
The descriptions were much more positive.
3.
The descriptions were far more positive.
4.
The descriptions were a bit more positive.
5.
Their descriptions weren't as positive as their friends.
Audio 9.3. 1.
I love this painting because it's so detailed, and it really tells a story. The colors are quite soft, mainly white, brown, and a kind of bluey green. It's a landscape, and it must be either an old painting or a painting of a historical scene. In the bottom left-hand corner, there are some men with dogs. I think they might be going out to hunt. Ah, no, they can't be going out to hunt, because I can see they've caught something. Just to their left, there's a group of women doing something with a big fire. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. They could be cooking something. It all looks very cold. There's lots of snow on the ground and on the mountains in the distance. The river must be frozen over because people are skating on it in the valley towards the right-hand side of the picture.
2.
I think this painting is really beautiful. It's a portrait of a woman. She's wearing an old-fashioned long dress in a lovely bright shade of red with a purple scarf round it. There's the same red on her lips and on the side of the book she's got in front of her. She's drinking from a blue glass bowl. I have no idea why. It's really mysterious. It might be a picture of an old story or something. The woman is in the foreground of the picture, but the background is also really detailed. Behind her, there's a curved window. No, actually, it can't be a window. I think it must be a mirror. It's reflecting the sea and 2 old-fashioned sailing ships. I'd love to know what this picture is actually about.
Audio 9.4. 1.
In the top right-hand corner, there are some sharp, snowy mountain peaks.
2.
In the foreground, there are 4 or 5 tall black trees with no leaves.
3.
On the left, there are some houses.
4.
In the bottom right-hand corner, someone is walking over a snowy bridge.
5.
The people in the background look very small.
Audio 9.5. Speaker 1. 1.
The river must be frozen over because they're skating on it in the valley.
2.
It can't be summer. It looks too cold.
3.
The hunters must be coming back from the hunt because one has something on his back.
4.
The painting could be a few hundred years old, I suppose.
Speaker 2. 5.
It might be a picture of an old story or something.
6.
It can't be a modern painting. It looks too old-fashioned.
7.
It must be a mirror. I can see the reflection of her face.
Speaker 3. 8.
The abstract painting must be very modern. I don't think it was painted a long time ago.
9.
It could be older than you think. People started painting abstracts more than 100 years ago.
10.
It can't be a painting of a mandrill. I can't see a mandrill in the painting at all.
Audio 9.6. 1.
The search for the missing climbers went on all night.
2.
But in the end, they had to give up.
3.
John took up birdwatching in his teens, and he's never got tired of it.
4. Dan takes after his father in looks, but his mother in character.
5.
I'm really looking forward to the concert tomorrow. I haven't seen any live music for years.
6.
Jill and I get on really well, even though we only see each other every 5 years.
7.
Why don't you come round later and we'll watch a DVD?
8.
We had to put off the meeting because the projector broke down.
Audio 9.7. Conversation 1.
Look, I'm sorry to have to say this, but I need to talk to you about something.
Oh, what's that? What's wrong?
Well, I'm afraid there's a problem with noise.
Noise?
Yes, there are a lot of us in this office trying to work, and, well, it's a bit noisy at times.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It is noisy sometimes, isn't it?
No, what I mean is, you're a bit noisy at times. On the phone.
Well, I did have one long call today. Sorry about that.
To be honest, the problem's been going on for a while now. You keep making personal calls in our shared workspace.
Conversation 2.
Dan, can I have a word?
Hi, Andy. Yeah, sure. What's up?
Well, sorry to bother you, but...
Is everything okay?
Well, actually, no. Not really. Look, it's a bit awkward, but I'm afraid there's something I'm not happy about.
Oh, what's that?
It's the office kitchen. Well, you don't ever seem to wash up your stuff. You just leave your coffee cups for someone else to do, and you leave food out on the counter.
Oh.
Look, Dan, to be honest, we're all getting a bit fed up with it.
Audio 9.8.
Conversation 1 continued. Do you think you could take your personal calls outside the office?
Yes, of course. I'll make sure I get up and go out in future so people can't hear me.
Well, actually, would you mind taking the calls in your own time rather than when we're working? Maybe in your lunchtime? Sometimes you're too busy on the phone when one of us needs to speak to you.
Yes, of course I can do that. And listen, I'd really like to apologize for being so annoying. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Conversation 2 continued.
Oh, Andy, I'm sorry about that. I just didn't think.
It's okay. It's just that it's a bit annoying at times, especially when everyone else manages to do it. Look, I know it might not seem such a big deal, but it would really help if you could just clear up your stuff. You know, wash your mugs, put things away in the fridge.
Yeah, of course. I'm sorry. I'll make sure I do that next time. I mean, every time.
Audio 9.9. 1.
I'm sorry to have to say this, but I need to talk to you about something.
2.
Look, it's a bit awkward, but I'm afraid there's something I'm not happy about.
3.
I'd like to apologise for being so annoying.
4.
It would really help if you could just clear up your stuff.
5.
Would you mind taking the calls in your own time?
Audio 9.10. 1.
Her hair isn't straight at all.
2.
He has been trying to grow a beard for a month.
3.
She runs marathons every weekend.
4.
He doesn't like beards or moustaches.
5.
He has lots of hair.
9.11.
I think I'm more like my father than my mother. He's the kind of person who always looks forward to the future, and so am I. My mother always thinks about what might go wrong. Recently, my father took up cycling and wanted to teach her how to ride, but she kept making excuses and putting it off. In the end, he gave up trying to persuade her.
Audio 9.12.
Sorry to bother you, but I've got a bit of a problem with this tablet.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What seems to be the problem?
I only bought it a few weeks ago, but it keeps turning itself off.
Do you have the receipt?
No, I don't actually.
Well, I'm afraid I can't help you then.
Do you think you could get the manager? He might remember selling it to me.
Audio 10.1. 1.
Ali Ganjavian noticed that people who travel a lot often get very tired.
2.
The ostrich pillow was invented to help long-distance travelers.
3.
It's a kind of hat that is pulled over the head in order to take a nap.
4.
So far, over $195,000 has been pledged by its backers.
5.
In the first 3 months of production, Ganjavian's company shipped 5,000 pillows to 52 countries.
Audio 10.2. 1.
Ali Ganjavian noticed that people who travel a lot often get very tired.
2.
The ostrich pillow was invented to help long-distance travellers.
3.
It's a kind of hat that is pulled over the head in order to take a nap.
4.
So far, over $195,000 has been pledged by its backers.
5.
In the first 3 months of production, Ganjavian's company shipped 5,000 pillows to 52 countries.
Audio 10.3.
As figures show that more and more children are overweight, the government has announced that highly competitive sports days and tournaments are to be reintroduced at schools. Under the new plans, schools will play against each other in an Olympic-style event, with sports such as football, athletics, rugby, swimming, tennis and cycling. Winning teams will compete in 60 county competitions before going on to a national final. For too long, schools have been avoiding competitive sports, introducing activities such as yoga, trampolining, cheerleading and dancing instead. They seem to believe that losing a race will make people feel bad about themselves. We have to realise that taking part in competitive sport is not bad for people's self-esteem. Whether you win or lose, competitive sport teaches people to work together in a team and to try hard to be the best that they can be. These are skills which are just as important in the workplace as they are in school. It is also hoped that the new plans will help Britain to break more records in future Olympic Games.
Audio 10.4. 1.
It's just unrealistic for children to be told that everyone can win. Life is competitive. If you lose a race, then you should just try harder. That's what I learned when I was at school.
2.
I don't think more competition is the answer. Sport at school isn't about teaching children how to be competitive. It's about encouraging them to exercise.
3.
There are plenty of children who don't do well academically, who are brilliant at sports. Why shouldn't they be allowed to play against each other and prove how well they can do? No one says that trying to get a good mark in an exam is too competitive.
4.
I went to a school that insisted on competitive sports. The school used to hold sports days in a public park so everyone in the park could watch. I was small for my age and always came last in all the races. It was awful.
5.
Competition is healthy, but taking part is more important than winning. Everyone should feel good about having done their best, whether they win or lose.
6.
If everyone knows at the start of a race who the winner is going to be, then it can be boring and demotivating. Why can't children be encouraged to compete against themselves, to break their own personal records instead?
Audio 10.5. 1.
It's just unrealistic for children to be told that everyone can win. Life is competitive.
2.
If you lose a race, then you should just try harder.
3.
That's what I learnt when I was at school.
4.
I don't think more competition is the answer.
5.
The school used to hold sports days in a public park, so everyone in the park could watch.
Audio 10.6. 10.7.
There's nothing quite like the atmosphere of the crowd at a big game, is there? Well, actually, a South Korean baseball team, the Hanwha Eagles, think they can create something like the atmosphere of the crowd by using robots instead of real-life fans. The robots can cheer on their team, and human fans who aren't able to attend the game in person will be able to upload their faces onto the robot and make the robots clap and wave. They can also send text messages, which the robots will display to the players.
Audio 10.8. 1.
The robots can cheer on their team.
Audio 10.9. 1.
The robots can cheer on their team.
2.
Then the robots can also cheer on their own team.
Audio 10.10.
Unstressed words. Words which carry the main meaning of a sentence are usually stressed. The other words, which are grammar words, are generally unstressed. The following kinds of grammar words are usually unstressed. The verb to be. Auxiliary verbs. Do, did, will. Pronouns. He, it, they. Articles. An, the. Conjunctions. And, so, when. Prepositions. To, from, at, with. There may be 2 or 3 unstressed words between 2 stressed words. However, the length of time between the 2 stressed words remains about the same, no matter how many unstressed words there are between the 2 stressed words. This can make it harder to hear the unstressed words.
Audio 10.11. 1.
The atmosphere at the match was amazing.
2.
We couldn't have had a better result.
3.
I was able to sit right at the front.
4.
I rang my friend at the end of the first half of the game.
5.
She couldn't come, but she was happy to hear the score.
10.12.
Convenient it might be, but attending a game virtually couldn't possibly be as exciting as being at a real game, surely. And what about the effect on the players? Don't the fans have a responsibility to turn up and encourage their team? Sporting teams always prefer to play in their home stadium, where 70 to 80% of the crowd will be made up of their own fans. And there is plenty of evidence to show that the home team really does have an advantage. On average, teams playing in their home stadium win about 53% of the time, and there are certain football stadiums, such as the Turkish team Galatasaray's Ali Sami Yen Stadium, which seem to be designed to take advantage of the noise fans make, using the shape of the stadium to make the noise as loud as possible. This then makes it very difficult for the visiting team to do well. Some teams now train using recordings of the other team's fans so that they can learn to take no notice of whatever their opponents might be shouting. However, there is some evidence to suggest that the biggest impact of the crowd is not on the players but on the referees, or match officials, who have to take decisions about whether to allow goals and so on. It seems that shouting from the crowd can affect their decisions and make them more likely to favor the home team. But is the noise of their supporters always a positive thing for players or athletes? Not necessarily. In general, crowds seem to improve performance for team sports and sports that involve strength or the ability to keep going, such as running or cycling.
However, sports which require a lot of concentration don't benefit from the excitement caused by the screaming crowd. These kinds of athletes need calm and quiet to do well, and noise from the crowd might cause them to take unnecessary risks and make a mistake.
Audio 10.13. 1.
Don't the fans have a responsibility to turn up and encourage their team?
2.
The home team really does have an advantage.
3.
There are certain football stadiums which seem to be designed to take advantage of the noise fans make.
4.
They can learn to take no notice of whatever the other team's fans might be shouting.
5.
Referees, or match officials, who have to take decisions about whether to allow goals and so on.
6.
Noise from the crowd might cause them to take unnecessary risks and make a mistake.
Audio 10.14.
Helsinki, Lisbon, Istanbul, Bologna, Liverpool, Riga, Santiago de Compostela. What do they all have in common? They're all in Europe, of course, but they're also all past winners of the title of European Capital of Culture. Since 1985, when Athens was first given the title, a different city has been chosen each year to organise a series of cultural events. As well as the honour of being chosen, the winning cities have often been able to attract more visitors and improve their image, so competition is fierce.
Audio 10.15. 1.
So how long are you going to be in Spain?
6 months. My company is opening an office in Seville and I'm involved in setting it up.
I loved living in Spain. You're so lucky to be going there.
Yes, but I hope I don't get lonely being so far from home.
Well, there's one thing you could do to meet people. You could try learning flamenco. I tried it and I loved it. I made loads of friends.
But I'm not much of a dancer.
Oh, that doesn't matter. There are fantastic schools. They can teach anyone to dance.
OK, I'll give it a go.
2.
I've just got back from Santiago in Chile. It's such a fabulous city, mountains in one direction, the beach in the other. If you like skiing, I'd strongly recommend Portillo or Valle Nevado, both world-class ski resorts. In the city itself, one of the most interesting things to do is to go to La Chascona, one of the houses of the famous Chilean poet Pablo Neruda. It's fascinating.
3.
Didn't you used to live in Prague?
Yes, why? Are you thinking of going there?
We've just booked a weekend there. Is there anything we shouldn't miss while we're there?
Well, you just have to go to the Charles Bridge and up to the castle, especially at night. It's very romantic. The area near the castle has lots of restaurants and bars where you eat traditional Czech food and, of course, drink some of our famous beer.
4.
OK, I arrive in Kyoto on Thursday. Where would you recommend I stay?
Well, have you thought of trying a traditional Japanese inn? It's called a ryokan. I stayed in one last year and it was a great experience. They're the last word in luxury and relaxation. You can enjoy traditional Japanese foods and baths, just everything you could ever want.
That sounds fabulous. I'll definitely try it.
Audio 10.16. 1.
You could try learning flamenco.
2.
OK, I'll give it a go.
3.
If you like skiing, I'd strongly recommend Portillo or Valle Nevado, both world-class ski resorts.
4.
Is there anything we shouldn't miss?
5.
Where would you recommend I stay?
6.
Well, have you thought of trying a traditional Japanese inn?
7.
They're the last word in luxury and relaxation.
8.
That sounds fabulous. I'll definitely try it.
Audio 10.17. 1.
Get money to start a business.
2.
Put money into someone else's business.
3.
Discover that you don't have very much money.
4.
Promise that something will be done or will happen.
5.
Think of something new.
6.
Make money from a business.
10.18.
I'd really like to get a bit fitter. What sport or activity would you recommend?
I strongly recommend running. You'll get fit very fast.
That's a good idea, but I have some problems with my knees. Could you recommend something a bit gentler?
Have you thought of swimming? It's really good for you.
Thank you, that's a good idea. I'll give it a go.
Audio 11.1.
And now, let's move on to a new film which has just been announced about the life and crimes of Colton Harris Moore, known as the Barefoot Bandit. Apparently, the money Colton makes from the film will be going straight to his victims. But can it be right to make films which celebrate someone's crimes in this way? Susie, will you be going to see the film?
Yes, definitely. I think it's a fascinating story.
Why do you think people are so interested in his story? Didn't he get a lot of fans on Facebook as well?
Yes, he did. I think the biggest thing with Colton is that the story was just so entertaining. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next, and lots of people just loved the idea of him teaching himself to fly. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Me, for one. But seriously, he wasn't really someone to be admired, was he? I mean, if he had crashed the plane in a town, he would probably have killed someone. But there are examples of criminals who actually did some good. I can understand those more. Take Ned Kelly, for instance.
I've heard of him, but I'm not sure what he did.
He was an outlaw in Australia in the 1800s. His trouble started when a police officer was shot in Ned's house. Ned was arrested for murder, but he claimed he hadn't done it and escaped with his brother and 2 friends. The 4 of them then went around robbing banks, but they were kind to the people who actually worked in the banks and shared the money with other people. Ned claimed that he was being unfairly treated because his family was Irish. When he was finally arrested, thousands of people protested outside the prison.
That reminds me of someone else I heard about, a Hungarian called Attila Ambrus. He robbed banks as well, back in the early 1990s. No one was ever hurt, and he treated the people working at the bank very politely. He even gave the women working there flowers. He became popular because many people felt that the banks deserved it, though I don't think he ever gave any of the money away. When he was arrested, he escaped from prison by tying his bedsheets together. It's a great story, and there's been a film made about him since.
Really? People do seem to love this kind of story, don't they?
Audio 11.2. 1.
I accidentally posted a video of myself and some friends at a party, and my boss saw it. I didn't mean to post it. I was uploading a different video and accidentally clicked on this video too. It was really embarrassing, and now my boss thinks I'm really unprofessional.
I had just had a job interview and one of the interviewers was very rude to me, so I tweeted about it. As soon as I pressed send, I knew it was a mistake, but it was too late. Later I found out that I would have been offered the job, but someone saw my tweet and they changed their minds and gave the job to someone else.
Audio 11.3. 1.
She should have been more careful when she posted the video.
2.
She shouldn't have accepted her boss as a friend online.
3.
She shouldn't have behaved badly at the party.
4.
She shouldn't have posted any videos online.
5.
He should have thought before pressing send.
6.
He shouldn't have said anything negative about the interviewer online.
7.
He should have waited until he was offered the job.
8.
They should have given him the job anyway if he was the best candidate.
11.4.
She should have been more careful. She shouldn't have behaved badly.
Audio 11.5. 1.
I really wanted to go to a big football game, but I was supposed to be working. So I told my boss I was ill. The game was brilliant, but unfortunately I got so excited I started tweeting about it, and my boss saw the tweets. So she knew I wasn't at home sick. I ended up losing my job.
2.
It really wasn't my fault. I was looking after my parents' house while they were away and I decided to have a party. It was only going to be a few friends, but one of my friends decided to write about it on Facebook. He didn't realize it, but that meant that 500 people knew about the party and about 150 people turned up. It was a great party, but the house was a terrible mess afterwards.
Audio 11.6. Conversation 1.
Something horrible has happened at work.
Oh no! What?
I had to finish a report for Tuesday morning, and by Monday afternoon I hadn't even started it. I decided to borrow a laptop from the office so I could write it at home and bring it in on Tuesday morning.
Okay, so?
The thing is, it's against the rules. Our manager says we must get permission before we do that.
Right.
So I took the laptop home and was writing the report at home. But then, during the night, I got really sick.
You were probably feeling guilty.
Maybe. Anyway, I couldn't go into work on the Tuesday after all because I was sick. And they discovered the laptop was missing.
And they realized it was you.
No, worse than that actually. They called in the police.
Why don't you just phone in and tell them it was you?
Because then they'll realize I was going to be late with the report.
Conversation 2.
Where were you last night?
I had to help Professor Dudley with his new research project.
Again? That's all you do at the moment.
I know. I wish I'd never offered to help him.
So why did you?
I thought it would get me a better grade in my exams, but I have to work day and night for him, for free, and I don't think he even knows my name. I'm just a slave.
Ha! Serves you right.
Audio 11.7.
Hearing modal verbs. Modal verbs such as must, may and could are very important for the meaning of a sentence, but they are often difficult to hear. We sometimes form the past using a different verb. For example, we must get permission. I had to help. When you are listening, use the context to decide if the speaker used a modal verb and which one suits the context best.
Audio 11.8.
Over the past 3 programmes, we've looked at the results of actions, both our personal actions and the actions of big business and government. Today, we have Dr. Michelle Hall with us. She's been researching into an area known as unintended consequences. Good morning, Dr. Hall. Just to start off with, can you tell us what you mean exactly by unintended consequences?
Good morning, Peter. Well, yes, the easiest way to explain is through an example. Let's imagine that we pass a law which says that all young people must wear helmets when they are cycling. This looks like a very sensible law. Obviously, our intention is that if a young cyclist were to have an accident, their head would be protected.
Yes, it sounds like a very good idea.
But the problem is that wearing helmets is very uncool or unfashionable. So young people might say, I don't want to wear a helmet.
And so?
So they'll stop cycling and go everywhere by car. This means they may take less exercise, and then they could put on weight, and later in life that might bring health problems. And that all means that the unintended result is as bad as the original problem.
Audio 11.9.
Okay, so when do we have to move?
By the end of the month. I think the last day is the 28th.
I've been checking all the estate agents' sites on the internet, and there seem to be quite a few apartments that would suit us.
Great, let's see. It would be a good idea for us to decide what we have to have.
Well, to start off, a bedroom each and a nice living room.
I'd like the apartment to have a balcony.
Let's leave extras like that for now and concentrate on the essentials.
Don't you think a balcony is essential? What will we do in the summer when it's hot?
Well,
Another option would be to go for a ground floor apartment
or a building with a shared garden.
Okay, we can see what's available. Could we move on to thinking about where we want to live?
Near the centre. That would be good for you at the university and for our office.
Okay, now for the difficult question. How much rent can we afford to pay?
Could we all go up by €100 a month? We get somewhere really nice for that.
I suppose so.
So, we're looking for a 3-bedroom apartment near the city centre
with a balcony or garden.
Audio 11.10. 1.
Let's leave extras like that for now.
2.
Don't you think a balcony is essential?
3.
Another option would be to go for a ground floor apartment.
4.
So, we're looking for a 3-bedroom apartment.
Audio 11.11. 1.
In the square, I saw
Two.
The light was
3.
The match was rubbish. It
4.
Please can you give me the key? I need it to.
Five.
We need change. It's important because
Six.
I'll meet you at the bank. Bring some.
Audio 11.12. 1.
We're running out of time.
2.
Are there any other suggestions?
3.
That's settled then.
4.
Let's leave that for now.
5.
You must admit that's true.
6.
That would be another option.
7.
I'm convinced that.
8.
So what we're saying is.
Audio 12.1. 1.
The best ad I've seen had a serious point, but it was actually really amusing. There were 3 guys sitting outside somewhere in Australia. There was a house behind them and the light was on. One of them asked another one to go and turn the light off because it was Earth Hour. You know, every year it's 1 hour when everyone around the world is supposed to turn off their lights to save energy and make people think about using less electricity. Anyway, the man couldn't be bothered to turn the light off. He said it was just 1 light and it wouldn't make any difference. Then, suddenly, he saw a huge cloud of moths coming towards them. Maybe every moth in Australia was heading for their light, because all the others had been switched off. I really think that the most effective adverts are those that make people laugh.
2.
I saw an amazing ad to raise our awareness of the problems homeless people have. It said that the weather was one of the biggest problems homeless people have, and that during the previous winter many of them had died. However, because they were homeless, no one really noticed them. So, in Germany, Switzerland, Russia, and a few other countries, they asked homeless people to present the weather forecast on TV. This helped people watching to see them as real people, just like them, and lots of them were offered help and jobs. They are now hoping more countries will do it next year.
3.
I really liked a public service ad called The Impossible Texting and Driving Test. It was really clever. It was made in Belgium, and the point was to persuade people not to send texts on their mobile phones while driving. Of course, no one likes being told not to do something. Well, I don't anyway. So they decided the best way to convince people that it's a stupid idea was to show what happens when you actually force people to text and drive. So the ad shows real people learning to drive at a driving school in Brussels. The instructor told them that a new law had been passed and that they now had to prove they could use a mobile phone while driving. Of course, no one could do it, and there were lots of silly little accidents.
Audio 12.2. 1.
The best ad I've seen had a serious point.
2.
Earth Hour is about saving energy.
3.
I saw an amazing ad.
4.
Lots of them were offered help.
5.
The instructor told them that a new law had been passed.
6.
There were lots of silly little accidents.
Audio 12.3.
So, Tanya, you've been reading our book of the week, How to Persuade and Influence People. Did you enjoy it?
Yes, actually. I thought it might be useful, but I didn't really expect to enjoy reading it. But it was really quite entertaining. There are a lot of personal stories by the author, and some of them are quite funny.
Can you give an example?
Well, the author probably tells the stories better, but there's one where a bird attacked the audience at a presentation.
Really?
Yes, the author had thought it would be a good idea to have a real owl in his presentation, but it escaped. Amazingly, he still got the job.
So, what did you actually learn from reading the book?
Well, there were some very useful tips for remembering people's names. He says that's important in getting people to trust you so that you can then influence them.
Oh, I'm not very good at remembering names. What were the tips?
To believe that you could do it, to listen carefully when the person first says their name, to use their name in the conversation, to look at their face and associate it with the name, and to write down their name and everything you can remember about them afterwards.
That sounds sensible. Have you got better at remembering names since you read the book?
Actually, I think I have. A bit, at least. It probably takes practice.
And what does the book say about persuading people?
Well, there's a lot of information. You'll have to read it, really. But probably the most important thing is to really listen to people and to ask questions to find out what's really important to them, what matters to them. When they see that you understand them, you'll be better able to influence or persuade them.
I guess that makes sense too. So, most important question, are you better at persuading people now?
I'm not sure. Ask me again in a few months.
I certainly will.
Audio 12.4. 1.
Well, the interesting thing is that soft power is now all about business. Countries no longer depend on force or politics to increase their influence abroad. I mean, when the distinguished American political scientist Joseph Nye used the word soft power, he was referring to foreign policy. But now soft power is used in business too. The idea is that to succeed in business, you need to influence people. So nothing new there, but the best way to do that is through communication and soft skills. You need to respond to your employees and show that you believe in them. Then they will work hard for you and make your business successful.
2. One thing that's really changed in business is the way we persuade people through communication skills and not force. We're not afraid of being more open in the workplace anymore. Of course, we have women to thank for a lot of these changes. Women are starting more businesses than ever, so female influence is increasing. Poor leadership and communication lead to employees becoming dissatisfied with their boss and maybe even leaving. That's a disaster because we depend on our employees to make our business a success.
3.
The thing we are all concentrating on now is working together and finding work that we find satisfying. We want to work in a group and deal with problems effectively, not spend our time blaming other people for the problems or feeling jealous of other people's success. I think a lot of young people have stopped worrying about how they are going to get a promotion. They just want to be good at something and to feel they're working for a company that values them as a person.
Audio 12.5. 1.
We're not worried about showing our emotions in public.
2.
What we're talking about is a country's influence in business and culture.
3.
The idea is that to succeed in business, you need to influence people.
4.
We're becoming more interested in how other people see us.
5.
You need to respond to your employees and show that you believe in them.
6.
Joseph Nye was referring to foreign policy.
7.
Poor communication can lead to employees becoming dissatisfied.
8.
Managers need to listen to their staff.
9.
The thing we're all concentrating on now is working together.
10.
They just want to feel they're working for a company that values them as a person.
12.6. 1.
Oh, is that new? Very fancy.
Yes. Well, I decided to treat myself. My old one wasn't working properly. It has a really good camera, 12 megapixels. That'll be really useful for my holiday.
I was just going to say that.
You won't need to take your camera with you now.
And the internet is really good on it as well. So I don't think I'll need my computer as much as before.
I'm not sure about that. Don't you think the screen's a bit too small to read?
You might be right. Maybe I'll still use the computer for work. It really does look good though, doesn't it? Hey, maybe I can persuade you to get one as well.
2.
So how did you get home from the party last night?
In the end, I got a lift with Andre. Have you seen that thing he drives? It looks absolutely terrible, so old-fashioned.
Oh no, I totally disagree. I think it's really cool to go around in something like that. It's so different.
Yes, but I can't help thinking that different doesn't mean good-looking.
Well, I think some of the old styles look better than the modern ones. And anyway, we shouldn't be under pressure to buy new stuff.
I couldn't agree more. But this model never was stylish. It's just awful.
3.
Have you been to that new place in town yet? You know, at the top of the hill?
Yes, I went last week actually. What was your impression?
Well, the food is fantastic, but so expensive. And they encourage you to order so much. Don't you agree?
Yeah, that's just what I thought. I must say we enjoyed it, but I didn't enjoy paying the bill. I think it's in a great spot, though, looking out over the city.
Absolutely. It's a great view. It's even better if someone else is paying.
Audio 12.7.
Agree strongly. I was just going to say that. That's just what I thought. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. My thoughts exactly. That's a good point.
Agree weakly. I suppose so. You might be right, but...
Disagree strongly. I totally disagree. Rubbish.
Disagree weakly. I'm not sure about that. Yes, but I can't help thinking. I agree up to a point.
Audio 12.8. 1.
It really makes me want to try the product.
2.
I'll never forget that advert.
3.
I didn't really understand what it was trying to say.
4.
It was really funny.
5.
I've never seen anything so horrible. Yuck!
6.
It is really imaginative and different.
12.9. 1.
Do you usually watch adverts on TV? Do you usually watch adverts on TV?
2.
What kinds of adverts do you notice? What kinds of adverts do you notice?
3.
Have you ever bought a product because of advertising? Have you ever bought a product because of advertising?
4.
What slogans can you remember? What slogans can you remember?
5.
Was advertising better when you were a child? Was advertising better when you were a child?
6.
What do you think about advertising to children? What do you think about advertising to children?